Hey, so this is part two of the ANOVA testing, specifically how to find F, how to fill out that table. And so we are going to look at, share the screen. Oh gosh, okay. We are going to look at this table right here, and we're ultimately going to find F. Now, before we get started, I just wanted to point out what I consider, I'll mark it up, this one will be easier to mark. I'm going to bebop between two different PDFs, and I'll show you why in a minute. So when we have these right here, this will be easy to calculate because once we know these two numbers, we just divide. This will be easy to calculate because once we know these two numbers, we just divide. Same thing here. This will be easy to calculate because we did it in the last video. Same thing here. And this will be easy to calculate because once we know these two numbers, we just subtract. So if I had I don't like the X, but if I had a sad face, I would do a sad face. So these two right here are, get me the X, go away. Okay. So these two right here are going to be the two bad ones, I guess you could say. They're definitely the more time-consuming ones. And so what I did in between videos was I wrote all of this stuff out because ain't no way I'm writing that notation, right? Like, let's be real. I couldn't even write mu without it looking terrible. So I wrote it out by hand and I put it in here. So I'm just going to talk you through it. So feel free if I go too fast, which I sometimes do when it's already pre-written, then just pause it and get some numbers written down. And I'll show you what numbers you don't really need to write. Okay, let's just jump into it. So we're going to start off with the SS total. The SS total is the sum of the x squared minus the sum of x squared divided by n. So do you see the difference of where the parentheses are there? This is x squared, or adding x squared plus x squared plus x squared, whereas this is the sum of the x's, so x plus x plus x, and then we square it at the end. All right, that's what we're going to do first. Actually, we might find k and n first because I'll forget. Okay, so looking at this problem here, we have 3 restaurants, and we have, well, let's just write down k and n since we're counting. So k is 3 because there's 3 restaurants. And then n is going to be, well, we just need to count how many there are. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 3 groups of 4 plus 1 more. So there's 13 of 13 different, in this case, we're talking about the sodium in sandwiches. So 13 different sandwiches at 3 different restaurants. So we could actually find the degrees of freedom right now. So the degrees of freedom for the numerator, which is k minus 1, is 3 minus 1, which is 2. You're going to see a lot of 2s because there's a lot of problems that have 3 categories. The reason is it's shorter, right? Like if this had 17 categories, this problem would take forever. All right, and then the degrees of freedom for the denominator is going to equal n minus k, which is 13 minus 3, which is 10. Okay, so we are going to just go to our table. So I have a blank table. So this number, I'm just going to fill this in as we calculate it. So we just determined that the degrees of freedom for the numerator is 2, and the degrees of freedom for the denominator is 10. That's where those go. And then just as we're filling stuff out, there's a lot of blanks. So that will stay blank, blank. Oh my gosh. I'll fill that back in. Okay. This will stay blank, blank. Okay, those 4 will always be blank. And I'll put my 10 back. Okay. So now we're going to go get the sum of squares for the total. So for the total, we have this formula, the sum of the x squared minus the sum of the x's squared divided by n. Now, you see right here, I wrote out everything squared just so you could see like order of operations wise what's happening. We need the 930 squared, we need the 750 squared, and so forth, and then add them all up. But anytime we do something where there's a lot of, what are these? A lot of numbers. What is this? Oh yeah. Okay. Anytime where there's a lot of numbers, it opens us up to making mistakes in the calculator. So I want to show you a shortcut of how to get this number, this 793,000 number, without having to write all this out. So what we are going to do is we are going to put our calculator. Okay, calculator over here. Make this guy bigger. Oh gosh, I didn't just close it, did I? Please tell me it's still there. Okay. Put this over here. I've done literally every video this happens. Okay, you know what I'm gonna do to stop being so embarrassing? I'm gonna pause it and I'm gonna make it work right, and then I will come back. All right, I got it all squared away. It's because the Zoom shares, the shares controls are over the top of my setting my computer up control, so it's kind of annoying. Okay. Anyways, we are going to go back to a simpler time. Do you remember chapter 2? Remember how much we liked chapter 2? Remember what we did in chapter 2? Well, we did a lot in the statistics app right here. So we're going to go to statistics and we're going to type all these numbers in just one list. We need to know what all of these added up are. So that's why we're putting them all in one list, because that will combine all the information. So we're going to add all these, or just enter all these numbers into the list. 5, 9, 10, 75, 1100, 35, 690, and 5. Oops. And 530. And then I can just fairly easily check. Mess everything up. I can just fairly easily just go through this list and make sure. Just trying to join the video. Make sure I put all the numbers in the correct way. I just like to double check it here before I make a mistake later. And plus I have to go to the top anyway. So I'm going to the top, going over to stats, and this should look very familiar. We've done a lot with the mean, median, and mode, the quartiles, all that stuff, standard deviation. So I'm going to go down, 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 all the way to the bottom. And we have these two new buttons down here, the sum of the values and the sum of the squared values. All right, so the sum of the values, the sum of the squared values, here's this number right here. The 793,000, I put a common number, 7,939,350. I put the comma like it was a telephone number or something. Okay, 7 million. That number is right here. I underlined it in purple, and it is right here in at the very bottom. Okay, perfect. So then next up, what we're going to do is find the second number. Well, the second number is the sum of x, which I have right here, 9880 squared divided by n. So I go to my calculator, go back to calculations. I'm going to keep an eye on that 9880. And I'm going to do a fraction with 9880 squared in the numerator and 13 in the denominator, because remember the sum of x from the calculator was 9880. I'm going to square it and divide by n, which I already determined was 13 up here. And that is this number right here. See, the calculator spaced it better. I wrote it like a phone number, so I keep reading it that way. 7,508,800. So I have these two numbers. So that's how you get them. Well, technically, you could write it all out and add and whatnot. And I wanted to show you what that looked like so you can understand what this is talking about. If you had added all these individually, you would have ended up with 9,880, and then we would square it and divide by 13 to get this number here. So we're going to subtract these last two numbers, and I get 430,550 as the answer to SS total. 430,550. So I'm going to put SS total. 430,550. All right, one of the terrible ones is done. Part 2, which is SS between. Before I scroll down and see this, in fact, I'll make it, well, I try to make it here. Okay. I don't know how to hide these stupid things. Hide floating meeting controls. Brilliant. It only took me until chapter 13 to figure that out. Okay, here we go. We have these symbols down here, and I'm going to talk about what they mean. This S sub J is talking about the sum of a column. Every time you see the sub J, that means of a column. So I want the sum of column 1, the sum of column 2, the sum of column 3, and then I'm going to divide it by N sub J, the number of items in column 1, the number of items in column 2, and the number of items in column 3. So we go over here, and I'm going to add up everything. So this is the sum of column A is 3015. Add all these up. The sum of column B is 3410. And the sum of column C is 3155. I also noticed that there's 4 items here. This little n, let's call it the n of A is 4. The n sub C is also 4. There's 4 items here. And then finally, n sub B is 5 because there's 5 things in this column. Okay, so I'm going to take this 3315 and I'm going to square it and I'm going to divide by 4 because there's 4 things in that column. And then I took the 3410, square it, and divide by 5. So I have all that here. The 3155, square it, and divide by 4. So I'm going to fill those variables in real quick. I'm just going to put A, B, and C. So later, if you're looking at this, you're like, where did those numbers come from? Well, it came from those columns. And I'm going to plug that into the calculator. Well, I want to get all of this in the calculator here in a minute. Okay, so I don't need parentheses here because it's just one number. Oopsie, put it over here in the calculator. 3315 squared divided by 4 plus 3410 squared divided by 5 plus 3155 squared divided by 4. And that gave us this number right here. I wrote round up. I don't know why. You don't need to round up. Rounding is confusing enough as it is, so we'll just leave it how it is. Okay, so I'm going to write that. Oh, I don't want to write that. All right. 7, 5, 6, 1, 4, 3, 2.5. Okay. And then I'm going to subtract. Now, does this number look familiar right here? It should, because we just got it. See how it's in orange up here? We just got it above. The reason these two are the same is because up here, I added every single number individually, squared it, and then divided by 13. On the bottom, I took these 3 numbers. Why is that the same? Because those 3 numbers are adding. That's how I got the numbers. And so I just add all those numbers together, and it still equals all the numbers added together. So the nice thing is we can use it once you get this number on the first problem, you can just copy it down here on the second problem. So we have 7, 50880. I'm missing an 8. No. 7. Oh, I'm missing a 0. Okay, so I'm going to come over to my calculator. I'm going to use that answer that we just got, minus 750,880, 750,880. And I have that number, 52,632.5. So we just did the SS between. Okay, we did the 2 hard ones. Now we're going to go after the last 4. So this one right here is the total minus, where's it written down? It's written down on the page. It is the total minus the between. We just did the total, we just did the between. So I'm going to just subtract this 52, no, we're going to do this one, the 43, let me just write it instead of trying to read it. 430,550 minus, and then this number is just that last answer that I had, so I can go up and grab it, and I get 377,917.5. Okay, and then we have our degrees of freedom here. And for the last 3, we're going to divide. So look here, we have this answer, SS between, the top row, divided by the degrees of freedom from the top row. This one is the SS within, it's the answer from the middle row, divided by the degrees of freedom for the middle row. And then finally, I'm going to take those 2 numbers, the MS between top, the MS within on the bottom, and divide. So I'm going to go divide, divide, divide. Here. So for the mean square between, I am going to take the 52,000 number and divide it by 2. So I have 26,316.25. And this number, you could type it in or you could just move the decimal because this particular one is kind of easy with dividing by 10, but they're not always like that. Back to 10, so we're just going to move the decimal. 37795. And finally, to find F, I'm going to take, and I'm just going to copy it from the calculator. I'm going to take the 26,000 number, the top number, divided by the 37,000 number, the middle number, and voila, I have my F. 0.636. No, 696. So that's it. Now you know what to do. Well, let's just finish the problem. You're already here. So this one right here, if we were to finish this problem, oh wait, I don't even think I put alpha in this problem, did I? No, I just said find F. Okay, yay, we did it. We found F. Okay, if that was a super mess, then welcome to the club because it's a super mess for me too. But just the reason I put this separate was so it'd be easier for you to like find specific steps that you are struggling with and go back and be able to pause the video. So let me know if you have, oh, I hit all the controls and I can't get rid of it. Okay, stop. Let me know if you have any questions and, oh yeah, there's one more video. So I will see you in the next video. Bye.